Hey, testing. 1, 2.
Testing one, two.
All right, Nazriq here, and tonight we have a very special guest on my show, the Nazriq Ahmad Show. We have here Umar Aziz. Hey, Umar, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. Just had a light dinner and I'm prepared for this show.
Oh, okay. What do you have for dinner? Did you cook up your usual meal, or was it something else?
I was going to, but
Oh,
I came into a bit of traffic on the way back, so I had myself bacon strip croissant,
oh,
and I'm gonna be cooking salmon belly with some rice later.
oh my God! You're
After
getting me
this.
hungry in the middle of the night. Bacon strip croissant and then salmon belly. Oh my God! Do you
I
plan to
mean,
sell this in your project?
Um, yes. Like right now, I'm developing the menu first, and once I
Mm-hmm.
find the right people to make into a team
Mm-hmm.
to carry the business properly, then I'll be selling it. I'll be selling it under Project Diploma.
All right. So yeah, speaking of which, okay, so Omar Aziz here is a guy who's a bit tough to describe. Like my previous guest, okay, for example, we had Takahara, she's an artist, we all know that. And then we had Aiman Azlan, who's a writer, we all know that. But this guy it's hard to pigeonhole him, all right? So some of you might know him from his project Makhluk Seni, which by the way, the other day As Samad retweeted yours. Like, wow. Did you notice his retweet?
Which one?
As Samad.
Someone. I think so, but I can't actually remember which tweet
Yeah,
you're
so
referring.
he retweeted saying that anyone who likes music should check out Makhluk Seni.
Oh, that one. Yes, yes,
And I
yes.
was like, wow, that's exposure, man. So yeah, Makhluk Seni, which I think maybe we can elaborate after this. And then recently you're going into cooking with your project Dapo Umar. If you
Hmm.
guys love, by the way, I haven't tried your durian butter chicken yet. It's not tempoyak, right?
It's not. It's not. The reason why I say it's not tempoyak, it would be insulting to call it tempoyak. Uh, KL and Klang Valley people, y'all know tempoyak bandar,
Mhm.
but like honest to God, tempoyak, the ones that we find in kampongs, nowhere near, nowhere near.
So how is wait, okay? And then you also do a lot of other stuff like I think Mati is your other project, right?
Hmm.
What does Mati stand for again?
So MATI stands for Music Art Theatre Inspire. It's
Mm-hmm.
a showcase
All right.
where we have for uninterrupted 1 hour and 30-minute non-stop performance from various different disciplines, from martial arts, music, theatre, poetry, stand-up comedy, and as many different art styles I can find and gather and put it into one large showcase. And the
Wow.
only curation that we have is the people who perform
Mm-hmm.
and one person who will point to the stage with lights to give you the cue. So
Oh,
what
all
you get
right.
every night is a continuous show that is different by nature.
Ah, so it depends on how the flow goes and the vibe and all that, basically.
Yes.
Wow, wow. So you have Mati, and then what else do you have? You have, God, it's hard to keep track of your projects. I'm trying to go by memory here. And then you also have, last time you did theater, right? Previously.
Yes.
Are you still doing theater these days?
Yes, I'm
Oh.
still writing. I write scripts. I haven't had the time to sit down personally and direct or even have a team to perform theater.
Mm-hmm.
The last show I had was last year. It was called Amo, Arguments Made Untuk Kita.
Wow,
This
okay.
year, this I think I want to produce a show more that's based more in spoken word, and one of those efforts is called Baloh. So it's a poetry
Hello.
debate format, and from there I want to develop it. So maybe, hopefully, in the end of the third quarter or fourth quarter of this year,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be seeing a long form version of a show that's based in spoken word poetry.
All right, so you're doing that, and then you also have
Yes.
you're a video photographer. I think flatliner photography, right?
Yes, so I work with Riz, who does flatline photography. I work on some of the videos that he does. This place right now that I'm in is
Mm-hmm.
his office,
Oh,
and he has the lights and everything. So I thought I would do it here
oh,
instead
all
of
right.
taking on the risk of having my grandma being a feature on your show.
Yo, so Omar Aziz featuring his grandma. Okay, that'd be cool
Yes,
actually.
it's not. It would, but it would be also my grandma being my grandma lah. So I can't. It's like a roll of a dice. You either get fun grandma tok one, or you get cranky grandma tok one, in which I would have to be like, alamak, kena potong sunting. Ah.
All right, and then you're also a teacher. What do you teach?
So I teach. Okay, I graduated with my literature degree,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been lucky to find a job that allows me to teach on Fridays English through theatre, script
Wow.
writing, and performance. So I go to a place in Damansara and teach online.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot in on your plate right now. So
Yeah, yes.
I think the interesting thing I want to ask here is, we live in a day where people say jobs are scarce and, there's nothing to do for a living. And here you are, you're doing all these various projects. So how did you get to this point, Omar?
Okay, so I guess it started in my last year of high school. I
Oh,
was a kid that was not able to find work. Like you said, it's
mhm.
hard to find jobs. And in Bangi, because I live in, my family is based in Bangi,
All
and
right.
I like cooking. I
Oh,
like baking, and I wanted to work in a bakery, but a lot of it was primarily for women.
hmm,
And the jobs that I wanted to do were not available for me because of distance, availability, and such. And so I
uh-huh.
went into teaching, and I brought that behavior and my want to look for work and build a savings account and have money in the future. Because for me, that's a big thing in my life. It's part
Wow.
of it's a big reason why a lot of problems I have to face is tied with like financials is a thing that I worry about. And when I went to college, and because I went to college in UAE PJ,
Hmm.
it allowed me access to all these things happening around PJ, theater, spoken,
Ah.
which I wasn't given access to in Bali. And when I
Hmm.
saw this, I was like, whoa, I want to be part of this community. I want to see what I can do. And so these two things, finding out about new things, that want to find out new things, plus with my entrepreneurial side of wanting to make money. Like I'll be
Hmm.
upfront, I will look for ways to get finances. I would love to have a secure and dependable base.
Hmm.
And art and culture and creativity comes side by side.
Hmm.
So combining those two together, I realized from the get-go that if anything, I have to be able to make work.
Ah,
So
all right.
for job positions,
Hmm.
I from the get-go was like, okay, there's work here. What can I do to make what can I do to make a space for me?
Ah, all right.
Myself more hireable. Like you could hire any other student, but what would make it beneficial for you to hire me? And so and then I guess growing up, you hear the term like jack of all trades but master of none. I was more
Hmm.
like, you know what, I'm okay with being jack of all trades.
Oh,
I
okay.
really am. Because like you only have one life, it's a set amount of time. Being master of one or two is great and all, but like being able to do lots of things
Hmm.
helps helps you be the person that helps you, sorry, being able to do a lot of things
Hmm.
allows you to see things from multiple points of view. And
All
so I
right.
did this with my literature degree. So I'm jumping ahead a bit here.
Okay.
uh,
No problem. No problem.
so like as studying when I was studying literature, and I
Hmm.
think if any of my peers or any of my juniors were to see me right now and I say this, they would agree. When someone asks you what do you work as with a literature degree,
Hmm.
it's hard to answer. It really is.
Yeah. Like, what do you do? Oh, yeah, I study English. So, cikgu teacher
Ah, that's the first thing you have to like get out of the way. No, that's teaching, but
Exactly.
not really what a literature student does. And
Hmm.
I think I found my answer in the third year. It's analysis, it's communications, it's being able to take data and represent it in a way that's easy to understand,
Hmm.
specifically for English,
All right.
but can be used in other fields. And for the longest time, because I took engineering first and changed
Oh,
to literature, so I found myself in a position like, you know what? I want to be the person that can communicate things between two very different parties,
all right.
two very different groups. If it's like the tech team talking to the creative team,
Hmm.
I want to be the person that can communicate these two teams together and have a good conversation.
So how do you come to this, desire to want to communicate between two different, extremes or two different groups? How do you get that interest?
Um, Two reasons. One, my family is very much tied into the university punya life cycle. You
Oh.
study, you become lecturers. Most of my aunts and uncles have either a master's or a PhD.
Hmm.
Most of them are lecturers, and they speak a very certain way.
All right.
And then you have another side of my family that's more technician, more into the earth, more petani, more ladang, and they speak a very different way.
Oh,
And
okay, okay.
for the longest time, when you see these both, because like at one point, I think my dad like sent me over to the kebun and be like, "You have to learn to be a man, tanam berapa sawit,
Oh,
kira-kira and all
wow.
that." Yeah, sembelih ayam sendiri and like do all that kind of stuff, that all the things a Malay man should do, from learning how to play golf to riding horses to swimming and all that. So like
Oh,
yeah,
so
it's the whole thing.
golf to slaughtering chickens. Okay, that's a very diverse set of things to do as a guy.
Yes, it's legit like the full course of how to be a man, no, stuff like that. So like where was I going with this? Yeah, so you have two different family
Yeah.
values. And like for the longest time, I thought like if this side of my family talked with this side of my family and and they did a project together, it would
Mhm.
be amazing. And my mom wanted to do that. She wanted to
Oh.
combine her know-how. She's a PhD. She's a lecturer at UPM. Her name is Dr. Hamita Wirza. If you Google it, she's the only one with the name in Malaysia. And she wanted to combine her IT and her programming knowledge with farm knowledge and
Wow.
create new technology there. But it never went through because language barriers. And it's not about the language
Oh.
they use as in English, it's the way they spoke, how they approached
Ah.
the idea, how they take an idea and break it down to make
Mhm.
it easier to understand is very different.
All right, all right. Wow, that's really mind blowing now. Okay, so it's from you observing how your family goes on, and then you want to apply that in real life, basically, right?
Yes.
But in your family, you have two extremes, but in real life, you have many more extremes. So,
So like I understand that, and I know it's not my burden to have to be able to do everything.
mhm.
I primarily am focusing on just being able to collaborate and work with as many people as possible. And that's it. And I will focus on whatever areas I can touch and affect. And I trust that there will be other people doing the things that I also want to do. And when the day comes, I meet them, I'll work with them too.
Okay, I find that very interesting as well because earlier you mentioned that you were an engineering student before changing over. And usually in Malaysia, we're like, okay, go for the secure career, the secure work. But you have this willingness to jump to something that, people misunderstand. And then you mentioned you want to work with everyone. So how did you get into that mindset and how do you face that, the stigma of doing something that people don't do?
Oh Lord, you just have to face it. Like I never really saw myself as an engineer. I love to tinker. Cooking has always been a thing for me, the longest time.
Mhm.
And I actually went out to look for culinary schools that I wanted to study at. I got two applications that were approved, and also an application
Whoa.
through UPU, and I got UIA engineering. When I presented these options to my mom, she said, look for a degree that people can be proud of or can respect.
Mhm.
English orang tak respect sangat. Engineering orang macam, whoa, okay, cool. And
Mhm.
my
True,
dad said
true.
the same thing. And ni zaman, okay, when they grew up, they saw the whole gas industry and everything. So I did my own research. And at that point of time, it was like around 2010, 2009, I
Mhm.
think. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I don't think the gas industry will last very, very long. Like the way the world is developing, this was me 2010. So that's like 9 years ago. And
Yeah.
for me, I kind of already saw, for me, like, I did not see the permanence of gas and coal in our industries in Malaysia specifically.
Yeah, it's not going to last anyway, right?
Yeah, and at that point, and then fast forward another 4 years, 2014. I think that was when I was doing my foundation, not mistaken.
Mhm.
And I finished my engineering there, and I finished one engineering year in degree. And at
Mhm.
that point, I was blessed to have roommates who were very passionate in engineering
Oh,
and also
wow.
very interested in it. And so I got to see them react and change. A lot of them changed courses. The IT flourished, took accounting flourished,
Wow.
took other classes did not flourish. And I also saw my friends who were very into engineering and did not flourish, and into engineering and flourish. And the small differences were really just how interested they were in engineering, how much
Mhm.
they were already naturally looking into it. And when I looked at myself and what I was already into, it wasn't very much that. I wasn't really looking into the latest trends of engineering development or tech or know-how or automotive or programming. I was more into people. I was more into really good speeches. I was
Mhm.
more into text and theater performances and how it affect the audience and stuff. I was already looking into that naturally. And so I told my mother that, you know what, I'll try engineering for a year in degree.
Mhm.
And if I don't like it, if I score but I don't like it, I will change course. If I don't score, I
Oh,
won't change because that's a proof that I wasn't studying properly. And so I did. And I finished the 1 year with a 3.9
wow.
CGPA.
Wow.
And
What?
like, yeah, I did really good. Purely engineering courses, and I was like doing what 20 hours, 18. I did 20 close to 20 hours of subjects. So literally no time for anything else, and I hated it.
Oh my
I
God.
hate it. I'm not. I will admit I'm not the fastest tool in the shed. Not to say sharpest. Not. I'm not fast. I'm not fast. I take time to understand concepts, but
I,
I really take the time to understand it, like calculations and the equations. It took me 3 days to solve one soalan, but after that I understood the problem. But that's 3 days,
I find
and
it
I
crazy because you say you absolutely hated it, but usually people equate the CGPA with hating or liking, and your CGPA doesn't seem to show that at all.
It's not. It's really not. Like to be honest, I feel I got through engineering with a better CGPA than I graduated with my literature degree. Let that be known. However, I argue that's only because UIA makes you take Arabic, and I am not good at
Uh,
Arabic at all. I've tried 12 years. It doesn't work with me.
yeah, and I would say, what's the point of taking Arabic for an English major?
God, but like wait, there is a point. That you can argue that there is a point to it.
Hmm.
But honestly, it should not have been. It should not have had such a big impact on our CGPAs.
Yeah, I mean, not that heavy in terms of weightage, I guess, right?
Yes, making it mandatory is great. Okay, for literature students who are watching this, it's great that you're made to learn another language because then you compare its grammatical formats, its subject verb agreement,
Hmm.
how it's used communicatively. Arabic, like in English, you're the first, second, and third person, but in Arabic, it's not really the case. The way a sentence is structured is differently because it's used for different purposes.
True,
It's more
true.
for record. English is for communicating an order.
Hmm.
Arabic is more for recording and documentation through verbal practices. So it's a
Yeah.
very different structure in approach on the language itself. But that's a whole literature class. I will stop here.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess they shouldn't have put too much weightage because not everybody has the background in the language in the first place, right?
Hmm.
Plus, the skill needed to speak the language. I mean, written Arabic and spoken Arabic is like two completely different polar opposites.
Oh yes, 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 yes. Like spoken Arabic and knowing how to speak the various types of Arabic, it's a is I honestly think is a specialty by itself.
Yeah.
There are people who specialize in that, and that says something.
All right. So now, why English and not any other course then?
Okay, why English and not any other course? Because for me, honestly, when changing, I was looking through, I went through sociology, I went through psychology, mass comm, English comm, and then finalized with literature. Reason why I chose literature is because I'm lucky that I grew up in the university lifestyle. I have been on
Ah.
both sides of the table where you register your courses from UPM to UIA. I know how lecturers talk and how they plan and how they approach students and how they want their students to behave.
Mhm.
So for me, university applications are more like, it's just paperwork, it's just procedure, it's very easy. And so I took the time to look at the classes and the lecturers, and
Mhm.
I found that the English literature class in UIA at that time
Mhm.
was the most interesting thing for me to approach and take from.
All
Because at the
right.
time, the lecturers I wanted to study from. Bad luck strike though, when I entered the course, they left to go to a different university. And
Ah, I think I
so,
know who you're talking about.
but out of saltiness, I won't mention that university just because I'm salty about it. Like,
Yeah, but I think I know who you're talking about because he was like a big person in Malaysia and we managed to get
yes,
him, then he left, right? All of a sudden.
yes. I will,
Oh,
however, say his name. If anyone watches this, it's Professor Ghulam. Please check him out. He is one of the very few people who know wayang kulit in
yeah.
and out. He is at the level where he is master. If he teaches you, you are learning pure knowledge on wayang kulit. Not
Mhm.
second hand, not third hand. This is first hand knowledge of wayang kulit.
And there are not many people who specialize in those really niche areas of performing arts, right?
It's a dying art.
It's a dying art, so someone who's still specialized in it is like, wow, that's like the guru and all that, right? Wow, wow. And it's interesting though because when the way you answer is like you had a very definitive understanding and clear goal. Like when a lot of graduates are there when you talk to them like, what do you want to do? I have no idea. I'm just doing what my parents tell me to do. So how then do you explain yourself to the public? Because English is like one of the most misunderstood majors out there, especially
Hmm.
literature.
Um, how do I explain myself? I guess I tell them what they already know. Like when they ask me, like, Uma, how are you so sure about what you're doing? I'm like, I'm not. I worry about my decisions every single day. Like,
Oh.
is it worth it or not? And that's why I guess I already know what I really want, and the basis or the core of it is I always want to be able to make money, to be able to provide for myself
Mhm.
and for the people I am responsible for. So my siblings, my family, my mom, I
Oh.
want to be able to support them financially. So it's not about like I want all the money in the world. I want enough money. So
Mhm.
all my arts endeavors or culture endeavors have that in the back of my head. If I do spoken word poetry, it's because I also want to be able to see other writers and know what they do and how they approach their work. These are much more experienced writers. So the partial reason, besides it being something I like doing, spoken word poetry, I like writing and developing my craft,
Mhm.
but it's meeting other writers too and seeing how they work as writers that is beneficial for me
Mhm.
because that gives me something to mirror and emulate. A lot of times when I talk to students or graduating students from literature or in banner, oh, sorry, English literature and linguistics,
Mhm.
they don't know enough people working in the field to
Ah.
be able to even emulate them. And if they do, they don't know how they do their work. This is why I argue where internship is great,
Mhm.
but internship in Malaysia doesn't really work because a lot of people don't know how to approach it.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the I find it more prevalent in urban kids. They know what the internship thing is for, but the kids who don't know about it, who just take it because it's a requirement, don't
Mhm.
approach internship the way they should.
Yeah, and then they end up just making coffee or making tea like that, right?
Or even worse, they get into jobs where it's low tech or low skill, and
Oh.
companies just want them there to button push and pencil push, and that's just it. That's the worst. Like making coffee, at least you're making coffee for important people, and it gives you the
Oh,
chance to
okay.
meet people. But if you're stuck at a table and doing paperwork, you don't get to see those people. So I
Oh,
would
okay.
argue making coffee is actually better. I would argue
Hey,
that.
true, true. Plus, you can actually make friends over coffee, right? Networking and
Oh
all that,
yes.
which I think is something that's really lacking in today's society, right? Speaking of networking, okay, so let's look at your history of involvement in projects, okay? So
Hmm.
back when you were doing your degree, you had your theater work, and I would say that your theater team was very notable because during a time when most people were going for slapstick comedy or the cheesy style comedy, you guys were doing you guys had deep themes, but at the same time it was also lighthearted and enjoyable and approachable. So how did that start?
Okay, so I think the team that you're mentioning is called All Nighters,
Uh-huh.
and we, I guess, we got together as friends who wanted to study, and we studied all night. Yeah, age 19 to 21, you can still do that. Like you can stay
Yeah.
up the whole night and study at MACD and do the dumb shiz that most students do, which is to study until 4 a.m. and then watch like really weird videos and then go get breakfast like it's heavy, go to your room and sleep
Mhm.
the morning off. And from those like study sessions, we talked about theater, we talked about storytelling, and
Mhm.
so me, Idlan, and Magat got together and we wrote up the first superhero theater performance in UIA.
Mhm.
And I kind of want to say Malaysia, but I don't know Malaysia well enough to say that. Though I do think it's one of the very first staged theater performances that is based on a superhero
Mhm.
that's originally made.
Oh.
The only thing I think would have gone first would be a theater performance of Klong Man. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. But the depth and the storyline comes from, I guess, my part in like my love of building characters
Mhm.
and understanding who I was working with. So I was working with two people, Idlan and Magat. So Magat had a thing for superheroes. He really loves comic books, has a deep knowledge in that. Idlan love stories between peoples and had been developing a story about three guys in a room and there are various difficulties in communicating and growing up. And so my place was making sure that when they worked together, it was conducive and it created something. So giving things structure. I like to call it working with chaos energy, honestly, because it's fun. It's an energy that honestly, if you don't control it properly, it's destructive on itself
Oh,
and
okay.
all just lie down and end up being like, okay, I'm just done. It's a space where magical things can happen, but only if you use it well. And I like that. I like working with that.
So how did you discover this chaos energy and how did you learn to tame it? Because like working dynamics. Like you have successful groups, but after a while they just boom and fade away, right?
Contrary to popular belief, I honestly think I am an introvert
Oh,
or an extrovert with introverted qualities. Either way, or vice versa. I get very nervous around new people, and I get clammy, and I don't really want to speak out loud around new people, to be honest. If
mhm.
anyone sees me loud, it's usually because I'm around people I know very well,
Oh,
or I
okay,
am
okay.
comfortable in the space, or I've done it before and I've practiced. So
All
it's
right, all
a lot.
right.
It comes from my problem of being unable to not stop being introspective all the time in what I or not being so aware
Mhm.
of what I do all the time. But at the same time, it is a good thing because I'm the type of person that says if I have it, fine. I'm not gonna fight it and say I don't have it. I am hyper self-aware. Why not take the time and look at that, introspect on it,
Mhm.
and use it for other stuff? So being aware of my thought processes and what takes me from one stop to another, how I feel about a certain situation when someone makes me feel a certain way, I apply that in interactions with other people.
All
And so
right.
that's how I think I tame my the chaos energy when in creation. It's me understanding and at least taking the time to
Mhm.
slow down and understand the person in front of me or with me and finding a space where everyone can be happy. It's very focused on communication.
Mhm.
Like in a team, when you're trying to make something, the want shouldn't be I want to make something. It should be I want to do something with you.
Ah.
The creative end is the result of me interacting with you. It's not the means, it is the result or byproduct.
Mhm.
What we should have between each other is a good time, or in the very least a very clear and communicative time, because you're not gonna get the you're not gonna be lucky to get every single situation be
Mhm.
fun. It's not gonna be enjoyable. Sometimes it's about work. But even if you hate the other person's guts, if you're able to communicate well with them, the work you do should always be okay and above and better.
Mhm.
I don't think you'll hate the end product.
All right, it's very interesting you actually point out, because usually in the performing arts, people will think it's all about the ego, all about aku dominate everything and stuff like that. But you mentioning first introverted and then about the result of the communication, that's a very fresh vibe going on there. And I think one of the earliest all nighter production work I caught was it Seven Deadly Sins?
Ah, yes.
Yeah, and you guys like went against the grain, and yet you guys maintain kind of a low profile despite the craziness and difference you guys did. So yeah.
That
So
I attribute to Ashraf, our fourth member. So in
oh.
that one, Idlan was talking to Ashraf about musicals, and they talked about Ligia. I
Mhm.
think Seven Deadly Sins. Yeah, it was a Broadway musical. We did just the one song, and Ashraf helped write it in a way that's more local to us, and so we performed it lah. And again, it was certain acts and dances in that, certain movements in
Mhm.
that. I like to claim credit for
Oh.
because that was what I suggested for. The dance was Ashraf. Magat wanted the idea of something that was new.
Mhm.
Idlan wanted something that story and felt, and I helped just facilitate that session and make sure that everyone was happy and we found a good middle ground.
So in other words, everybody had a say in the creative process.
Yes.
Wow. So it's more like you guys are
Not
facilitating
easy.
each other and all that.
Yeah, it's not easy. There is a lot of give and some take. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
like my way isn't without its faults. There are things that I don't get to do. There will be things that I will give and not be able to take. I'm still learning on. I'm still because again I'm not always comfortable with interactions,
Mm-hmm.
and I will always prefer to give rather than stand and get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I'm learning and developing right now.
All right. So you're not comfortable with interaction, which is why we mostly take a more like a backstage role when it comes to theater production, right? More like the behind the scenes in a way. And then you have your spoken word work, which is like dealing directly with the audience. So how did you get to spoken word then?
So my cousin introduced me to poetry writing.
Mm-hmm.
Introduced me to the app, the blogger app.
Oh,
Zaman
okay. Oh, it's on
zaman
video.
phone dan internet pun, like the phones weren't with internet. They were just like if you wanted to write on blogger, you have to send SMS. For those who still remember Zaman Twitter, where if
Oh
you want to post
man,
tweets from your phone, you had to SMS
the
and then they
good
would
old
put.
days.
Yeah, that was where I was writing micro poetry, and I like that because it for me it's about turnaround time.
Mhm.
Uh, the you can write poems faster than you can write scripts. You can perform poetry faster than you can perform a theater show.
Oh, okay. Why
So
do you say that?
huh?
Why do you say that?
It's just the amount of times you practice and create something.
Mhm.
It's just why I thought for myself, like theater performances, you at least need 2 weeks, or at least, or even like a month to 4 months, depending on the size of the show, the production, how many people you're working with.
Ah,
Poetry is a very primordial form of theater, I think.
primordial. Ooh, why would you see it
I
that way?
couldn't find the word. It just came out like that. I'm not trying to be deep. It's just I couldn't of the word for it. But yeah, it's a very basic or very not even basic point. I mean, a lot of old theater performances were all in prose,
Mhm.
or a lot of them rhymed and had poetic meter to it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. That's true. Especially the French theater and all that. They're very, very poetic in nature. True,
hmm.
true.
um, Further back than that too, like a lot of it was that I can't think of examples right now, but like poetry in its essence right now on stage, you're given 5 minutes, so you have 5 minutes only to make an impact to the crowd. You write by yourself, you depend on yourself to write, process, and then develop it and then stage it. So well, performance is staging it lah, performing to an audience, and it's an open mic, so they don't owe you anything, they didn't pay for you specifically, but if you can do something that makes them remember you, you have good content there. So for me, that was a great way to filter through all the things that you're writing. I'm a thorough believer that if you write
Mhm.
100 things, more than half will be. Can I curse on this?
Uh, Keep it PG, or just
Okay,
try to censor it.
okay. So like most of it will be out.
Okay.
Great. So you have to write a lot to get the great stuff.
All right. All right.
That's why. And you asked previously, like, how does event organizing come in all of this? In all of this, that's tied to work. Honestly, my degree, literature degree, in UIA, I felt did not cover enough for me to be a hireable worker.
Oh, okay.
There are things that I don't cover in the syllabus. It's a great syllabus. There are still great lecturers at UIA.
Mhm.
I am blessed to have been able to study with them. Dr. Mediha, Dr. Aisha,
Ah,
Dr. Wayung, and a few, and Dr. Fariza, but she's no longer there. She's already
retired.
retired.
Yeah.
And a few other lecturers too. I apologize for not mentioning, but I do think about you and I keep you in my prayers. They
Oh.
have been amazing, but it's not enough to be hired today.
Mhm.
You have to have at least basic knowledge in programming, or in the very least know how to
Yeah.
design. You need to be able to create your own content. Creating content is a very big skill that was not taught in class. There are some, it's very much a presentation, but there was never a connection between that and creating content. Dr. Aisha did her best to make do with the classes and make creating content some part a big aspect in her teaching. So event organization in general helps you cover the basis of all the things you need to create a CV in the very least that makes you more hireable.
Mhm.
Starting your own movement, starting your own group, or even doing things and recording them, the act of documenting what you've done is a big skill that allows you to be hired.
So it's very interesting that you point out about what's missing in classes. So where did you get that from then, if not from the classes?
From spoken word poetry, I got to meet other students from different universities. I got to compare them. I don't talk to just my literature friends. I talk to my IT friends, see what's
Mm-hmm.
different. Engineering friends, seeing what is different, seeing what each different discipline and with the job, the workspace that they have requires, what companies need. It's just a lot of talking to people and finding out more. Like go out and talk to companies and go to like their interviews and finding out more about the companies that they work for. Like for example, most engineering companies usually have a HR, and it's not just HR pencil pushing, making sure everyone's happy, la di da di da, make sure that everyone's kumbaya and all. But also, how do some companies put effort in curating their public perception of themselves?
Ah,
That's
yes,
where a
yes.
student can come in, analyzing what you've been writing in the past, how people react to it, and moving forward.
Mhm.
Similar overlapping degree is like is social media management and media management and mass comm, because it relates to perception and the public and data.
Mhm.
Psychology is focused on that more. literature classes don't really talk about it and don't provide students with the skills to do that. So me being lucky enough to talk to students from different courses allowed me access to just know that I needed that knowledge. And
Ah,
so doing events and going online, because like mostly everything is available. Not everything though. That's a whole different conversation about what's available online. But
mhm.
what is enough to provide you the basics, and then you need to develop it further by practice. Event organizing allows you that. It allows you the chance. And you can always just choose to work with other people also and work on their projects, or you can also build your own.
Okay, okay. So I guess that's what led you to your next endeavor, which is Mati and Makhluk Seni, right?
Yes.
So how did you get into that then? I mean, what was your first big break with those projects?
Okay. I guess for me, I don't follow the usual route event organizers go. Usually, what event organizers try to do is they want to get that big break. They want to do that one show that gets more than 5K audiences
Mm-hmm.
coming in groups. So it's either a food festival, a run, or it's a huge talk, a TEDx they
Mm-hmm.
do in the university. For me, I wanted to focus on the analysis and then application.
Oh,
So all the events that I do are experimental or proof of concept. I wanted to prove that you could do a show that had multiple different performances that wasn't a circus. If you think about it, a circus show is basically different types of disciplines put together into a show. I wanted something that
hmm.
had more edge to it, edgy, edge lock kind of thing, a bit more like urban and youth, and okay, I can go to this. I wanted a way to get performers from different age groups and different disciplines together, and I wanted something that wasn't draggy and I had control.
Ah,
So Mati, the show itself, it's curated by lights. It's in the dark. I turn on the lights and then you perform. I turn off the lights, you stop. So it's I would say similar to being able to conduct your own performance using
ah,
people.
like an orchestra of sorts in a sense.
Yes, using lights. So you lights is a very strong visual cue. When you're
Mm-hmm.
in the dark, you automatically go quiet. It's a reaction thing. Um, some people perform in the dark, but that's a whole different conversation. But basically, when lights are off, you assume the show is ended. So I
Mm-hmm.
played with this. I wanted to prove it works, and it does. And I've done it twice. I won't do it again until I find a good stage to do it further because I want to
Ah.
develop that show. And so you won't see me doing a Mati 3 anytime soon until I find a stage that I think would be best for it.
Plus, you need really good lighting to really experiment around, right?
Yes, like honestly, the next step for me for my team will be having like pre-made visuals and
Oh,
ways to further the effect of the performances. So imagine if martial arts, I want to be able to play with fire or to play with fabric and light. If it's poetry or spoken word, I want to be able to play with a LED board in the back and have words
oh,
pop out,
wow.
visuals pop out. If it's stand-up comedy, I want him or her to be able to perform with visuals in the back, like tie into the performance, that cover them. So it's more of that. I want to be able to produce that, and finding a stage that I can do that with, and also afford because it's expensive,
Yeah.
is a challenge right now. So yeah, so just developing other stuff, more to arts, more to painting, and that's a whole different thing.
It's interesting, it's called Mati, which is death, but you play with lights, which is a very nice contrast there. And it's nice you mentioned that because, like a lot of art performances, the lights are just there because it's there. It doesn't really add much to the depth or the emotion. You rarely see performers really utilizing the light, especially when it comes to music. Like music lights is more like, just like something to dance to rather than something that sets a real emotion to the music. So it's nice that you mentioned Mati playing with lights. All right, all right. And then from there,
And
then, then
I think playing with lights is a very. I've seen quite a few indie band performances. I think Tingkat Dua, which is a place in Damansara, I think they closed down recently because the venue had a problem. But
Mhm.
their shows they play with lights and they invoke feeling too. Group
Wow.
sorry, called Theatre 360, run by Chris Ling. He also is a lover of playing with lights and uses lights to invoke feelings too. I do, however, agree with you. It's not often seen, especially in mainstream or easily accessible theatre, especially with young student groups. But a lot of older and more mature groups are learning to use it and getting better with lights.
Okay, okay. So we have
So this,
Mati. And then how about Mahmud Sini? Tell us about Mahmud Sini,
so okay, Makhluk Seni is
the art creature,
the
creature
art
of
creature.
art.
Yes, I wanted something to call Asian cultural practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
Something that wasn't tied to a specific discipline. So not penglipu lara, bukannya pemuisi, bukannya seorang yang buat siapa? Bukannya just a theatre performer. Some people do a lot of different things, and I like to call them makhluk seni. People
No.
who don't just delve into one things. A lot of practices in arts and culture overseas
Mm-hmm.
delve with multidisciplinary activities. When you do a zine overseas, it's not just poetry, it's not just written works, it's them drawing and sketching
Oh.
and doodling and combining it with their works, but also
Mm-hmm.
printing and how they print it, and then visuals and their website. So, like, I wanted something to call each other, so I thought Makhluk Sini would be fine. It would be fun to use because it's very much Asian. It's makhluk. It's a creature.
Makhluk. Wow.
It's ungendered. It's unspecific. It's a creature.
Mm-hmm.
Anything breathing or living, anything breathing or living, you will refer to as a creature. And seni is already open. It's arts. Whatever is important to you. I define makhluk seni is someone or something or whatever you are
Mm-hmm.
who is passionate about an art. And it can be anything. If you celebrate food eating,
Mm-hmm.
mukbang. If you celebrate painting with your hands, that's hand painting in itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you celebrate driving, then you are makhluk seni driver. I would just like people to take the time to appreciate their own art and want to share it with others. And so all the things I do, all the events have that in their formation.
Mm-hmm.
That it's a session where someone shares their art, and it's the passion I want them to get to the audience or to the people who come.
So how's the reception been for Mount Osini? Because normally the stereotype is Asians are not good at expressing or very hesitant to express. So how's the reception to that, both from the
Uh,
performer side and the audience side?
It's been great. For the past 2 years, we've been playing online. Last year we did Pact, which was the poetry and art collaboration time online. We had an amazing feedback and response from the online audience. A lot of times, people don't engage in arts because of accessibility and finances. So online has been a great way for us to engage and provide opportunity for collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we did it too. And so this May 4th and 5th, which is next 2 weeks on
Oh,
a Saturday, Sunday,
all
we've
right.
decided because we want to print all the submissions for Pack 2,
Mm-hmm.
but it's expensive to print color and do justice to everyone. So
All
what we
right.
wanted to do is focus on the sharing part. So what we're going to do is book a venue called 2022. We already
Oh,
have,
okay.
which is planning layout and everything. And for the 2 days, we will have printed and showcased every single submission that we got that was properly sent to us and also consented to, and will be shared for all those who wish to come and see all these pieces, from spoken word to small skits to memes to well, the term is shit posting, so I don't think it's a curse there. And then the illustrations that pair and were inspired by those written works,
Wow.
alongside songs that was made by the prompts, and all of this happening in 2 days at 2022. If you want to check it out, this is going to be a promotion.
Yeah,
But
I'll promote later after this as well. So yeah, fourth to fifth
it's
May, is
called
it?
Impact. It's called Impact.
Impact.
Hashtag Impact May 2019.
Mm-hmm.
We sell our tickets on PTix, and we would love people to come. The art gallery itself is free. The
Oh,
sessions from beatboxing to how to play board games to how to make your own board games to poetry debate, baloh, and all the other stuff is ticketed, but very minimally and affordably so, just so that we can afford the space. We were lucky to get funding in advance from
wow,
INX.
that's great. Congrats,
So like
man.
last year we had pitched and we got funding to do multiple events across Malaysia. So last year I toured and got to go to East Malaysia, got to go to Singapore, and I hosted a show
Wow.
and collaborated with multiple people. And the funds I was always rolling it over, and finally to showcase all the teams, almost everyone I met in one space. Impact is the event for that. So you'll be seeing various events from beatboxing, partying. There's a person that does mixing and is very passionate about partying.
Wow.
So he likes creating his name is Prithif. I can't remember his online account right now, but his group is called Abstract Nature, and
Abstract nature. Okay.
they curate parties. They want you to have a good time, and
Curate
not like, hey,
parties.
come here, drink and have a good time. It's more like they will create curated parties, like a studying party or a cosplay party, or a party where you have fun with friends, and you can only be invited by your friends. That kind of stuff, and it's really cool. So
Wow.
I got to meet them through all these activities that I've done under the support of INXO and also Cendana,
Mhm.
and just brought them together to one space. And like Mati, having all of this together, it really is a way for you to sample platter of all these different arts and find out if maybe you have something you like or that in that selection, or maybe it will lead you down to what you also personally like. Because what's contagious isn't specifically the art form; it's the passion that comes with it.
Mhm.
You talk
Wow.
about someone making bowls, you talk about someone making knives. You often talk about the result, but more often than not, it's the human story behind it that hooks and keeps you there. You talk
Mhm.
about food, you talk about your parents making it for you, or some pakcik that you know very well who made it perfect and you were inspired by it.
Mhm.
That's the thing that inspires you.
Okay, so wow, this is mind blowing. This is like a lot to process. So you're trying
Yeah.
to inspire with all this expression of arts and performing arts, and you've been able to tour the country and get a lot of people on board, which is not easy in a country where we're so focused on TVET and all the scientific stuff. So it's actually a nice breath of fresh air, because a lot of people think that Asian equals mathematics, Asian equals science, and all that, but you're doing something different. But you know, on the top of all that, and then where the heck did Project Dapur Umar come from? Like that's like in a way artistic, but that's so far removed from performing arts. So where did that come from then?
Okay.
So for those who
Project.
don't know, yeah, he does all this art stuff, but he has the time to do his own pop-up kitchen. I tend to see chicken in the kitchen the same way sometimes. And literally, you also sell chicken, right? So yeah,
Yes.
so where did
Um,
that come from?
So one of my stress reliefs when because like I will not lie, all these events happening and meeting people is stressful, especially for someone who doesn't like, not, doesn't not that doesn't sound
Introvert.
like it makes me uncomfortable, and it's not
Mhm,
because I don't like it. I like meeting people,
mhm,
but there comes times where you don't want to, and that's okay.
mhm.
But it does put stress on me because sometimes I don't have the luxury of choice. I do need to meet them because I've already set the meeting with them, or it's an
Ah.
important meeting. And so my runaway, okay, the reason why I do mostly freelance work, which
Mhm,
allows me to do these events, is because I live and stay with my grandmother.
mhm,
So her name is I call her Tok Wan. Her name is Wisni Khairul.
mhm.
She is now 87, if I'm not
Wow.
mistaken, and
God
she's
bless her.
stubborn. She's stubborn as any other grandma, any Indonesian grandma. She is as stubborn as them.
Oh, okay. Indonesian. All right.
On my mother's side, it's partially Indonesian. And yeah, and also like the kaum Melayu. Um,
Mhm,
And long story short, I try my best to spend as much time with her, either in the day or in the night. So today I spent my mornings with her, and then she went out, and I went out to do my work, meetings, and then came here for this conversation. And then maybe later I'll drive back home or have my cousins spend time with her. The idea is that she's not dependent, or she tries her best not to be, but she does want someone around. So
mhm,
when she showers or when she wants to siram pokok or do anything outside, she has someone around to keep her safe or
mhm.
help her out when she falls. So these are the things that I try to be. This is why I try to be at home as much as often. Also because when you're older, your teeth are out and you're getting tired of taste, so you want to experiment new food. So my personal like of experimenting and with food,
Mhm.
like I have made a lot more horrible dishes than I have good dishes. My good dishes are good because I know my mistakes. I learn from them. But Project Dapur Uma is just the documentation of the food I experiment and get better at.
Mhm.
So durian butter chicken is a food version of my art, of what I do with communicating with people. In Kramat, durian is very much available. I can get it almost every single day,
Mhm.
either by truckload or I get
Really?
some. Yep, yep. And we get from all over Malaysia. So I have had the luxury of trying durian from almost every country, sorry, every negeri without having to travel there personally. It's
Wow.
here, they drive. I told the uncles, they drive all the way here when they get the lorry. They
Mhm.
will have a friend space where they can lepak sekejap,
Uh-huh.
and then Islam buka truk, buka lampu, and then terus jual. So you
Wow.
get it fresh from the ladang. Like
Yo.
time that's spent is the travel time. That's it. And over there too, there's a lot of ayam goreng. And originally, I collaborated with one pakcik and jual ayam goreng seringgit. Why?
Mhm.
Because I really love this ayam goreng. And I talked to him about it, and he does take the time and effort to make really good ayam goreng. And I won't give you his secrets, but it's really good. And so I learned from him. And I do my best as much as often or not to source whatever chicken I use from him. Like I am not into the business of like trying to make everything cheaper for myself and then undercutting other people. I really do collaborate with them and buy them
Oh,
from their price and then sell. So durian butter chicken it costs 15 ringgit. It's not just because it's durian, it's not just because it's unique. And honestly, you'll only get to try it when I make it for you, but also because I want to pay people that I work with well. So it's 15 ringgit for a reason.
so you really, it's worth the price because there's also the effort and the, okay, that's good, that's good.
I'm thinking more for the community and the people I work with. And it's a combination of, okay, Project Dapoma has a few rules. One, I try my best not to use as many plastics. I try to recycle as much as possible. So
Wow.
I'm not able to get really cheap plastic stuff. Two, I do my best to get things fresh and natural and available to me in the proximity of where I live. So I'm using local stuff. If you ask me what durian butter chicken, honestly, it's a keramat dish. And I hopefully one day it becomes a Malaysian dish. That if
Wow.
someone asks what you eat in Malaysia, it's a nasi lemak, roti canai, and then durian butter chicken.
Whoa.
I
Yeah,
will
who knows? It
yes,
might happen one day. Who
it's a goal.
knows?
Like long-term goals, like, I may not make money from it, but I will see to it that durian butter chicken is a national dish, or at least a negeri-based dish.
Yeah, and
And you
at least other countries cannot claim it, right?
Yo, don't. I'm honestly worried Singapore has something up their sleeve. It's going to
Oh,
happen these days. Like Singapore has a durian cafe. They make everything. So once they hear the wave of that name, it's not hard for them to make it. Honestly, it's not. So it's a race against the time. But final rule is I try my best to do Project Dapur and spend as much time with my grandma as possible. So when
oh.
I make the recipes I make, when I experiment with it, I will get my grandma to taste it. She is not the greatest of judges for food, simply because she's strict, and her only praise for food is kalau sedap. She'll often say kalau cukup gula, cukup garam, sedap lah.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
again she'll like okay lah, sedap boleh lah. She has very very refined tastes, but because of age, it stops her from eating the food that she likes. And so yeah, so like most of the recipes are me recording uh, cooking techniques from the past, from my grandma's recipe and stuff like that. So it's a lengthy conversation about why or how I develop my recipes, but it's tied about location, it's tied about culture, it's tied with recipes I've learned from my families. My father's Johorian side, so sambal
Oh.
goreng, and my grandma's side with cooking with santan and
Mhm.
vegetables.
So it's a
That
fusion of both styles then.
Yes, so it's when people ask me if it's fusion dish, I would say yes, in the fact that it's fusion dish based on techniques and not just ingredients alone. It's not me throwing durian into my chicken. There's a lot of thought into it too. And I have the people I met through poetry to thank for helping me and guiding me in my approach to cooking. Honestly, like yeah, a lot of people I met through spoken word poetry and the community are honestly big part of why I do things the way I do today.
Wow, wow, that's really crazy. Like, you manage to connect everything even when they're so like distant and extreme opposites there. So I think by analogy, we can say that all your projects are like bands, and this is your solo project then, Puyadapo?
Not okay. Project Diploma, in this sense, it's a solo project when I develop and research. And so that in the beginning, I'll start like that. I will spend my own time experimenting on how it cooks, how it develops its tastes.
Mhm,
Then I do food tasting sessions in which I talk to my friends, my fellow chefs,
mhm.
and see what their response to it is. The chefs I talk to are those who are culinary graduates or have
Wow.
longer term in cooking than I have. Like one guy named Pau, he does Pau's Kitchen. Brandon Pau, he is an avid lover of sambal, spent years studying it and making sambal. And I learned the passion and love for sambal. The respect I now have for it comes
Mhm.
from him. And
Oh,
Jack Malik,
wow.
who is a poet but also a
Oh,
graduate
Jack
of
Malik.
culinary.
Yes, yes.
Yes. And he helped me talk to me about the durian butter chicken and gave me feedback about what it would need and what it should not have. And it's not it's I guess having a lot of people to talk to
Mhm,
allows you the freedom to, when listening to advice,
mhm.
you accept it, but you don't have to follow it. It teaches you that you
Ah.
take all the advices from many people and take the best of it, because ultimately you live and you die by the decisions you make.
And that's a skill that not many have, right? I mean, to actually evaluate and take the best. Some people take advice too seriously, follow it so religiously, right? At times.
Yeah.
Wow, wow. So where are you selling it now? Your stuff.
Okay. For Project Dapur Umar, I was going to open a stall. I've been collaborating with this one guy that I met, and it's with at Ali Bistro with Ashraf.
Mm-hmm.
He's the owner of Ali Bistro. We're basically renting and starting a small stall there. So I use that stall to cook for public because my grandma's house, I don't really want to bring people to it
Mm-hmm.
because it's my grandma's house.
Yeah.
For orders for durian butter chicken, you can contact me. My number is available on the Twitter account.
All
You make
right.
booking with me, and I will confirm and meet you there, and I'll make you a fresh batch.
Wow. So how has the reception been then so far to your durian butter chickens?
So the Kerama crowd, or the Setiawangsa crowd specifically, aren't really into it. They are looking for cheap food and stuff like that. So my challenge with this new stall, it's the stall itself won't be called Project Dapur Uma. It's going to be a different name. And my challenge is making interesting and tasty dishes in a small amount of budget, like 5, 6 ringgit.
Mm.
So that's the challenge there, and I'm enjoying it. My friend, his name is Shafiq. He is a person that me and Ashraf are helping out and give. He's running the stall every single day. He's selling steak sandwiches. Um, if you're a UIA student, you know mix. So we introduced
Ah,
mix from the
yes,
sales
yes.
crowd. So we're now serving mix there.
Oh,
I'm trying to develop sauces, and like currently I'm playing with dried mushrooms in a way to have it work or have it go well with the steak sandwich.
wow, mushroom. Oh, that sounds really good. Mushroom and steak sandwich. Wow, wow. So what's next on the horizon for you then? I mean, you're doing so much. Are you going to just stick with this, or are you going to innovate and do something new after this, like another
Okay,
project?
so um, my plans for now is further developing poetry. I want to develop the process, which is the poetry debate format called Valo.
Valo,
I want to
okay.
at least make it popular, at least in Klang Valley, and make it a practice that people know about. I want to develop the menu for Project Dapur Umar further, so I have a full menu that I think will be ready. I'm talking to a few people, and hopefully one day have a proper stall for for Project Dapur Umar. Like currently on the durian butter chicken menu, sorry, on the durian butter chicken menu, ah, currently on the butter chicken menu,
Uh-huh.
we have durian butter chicken, we have honey fermented garlic butter chicken,
Wow.
we have mango spice butter chicken. These are the three things on the butter
So
chicken menu.
mango spice, honey, fermented garlic. Wow.
Yep. So I like playing with those kind of tastes because like the butter chicken recipe is honestly simple. If you ask anyone, if you go to Facebook, there are lots of people doing it as a delivery. Me personally, I just like developing those recipes. Project Dapur Umas long term, in work wise, I want to be able to create menus and suggest menus for cafes.
Mhm.
Cafes, small cafes who would like to have an interesting menu, I would love to work with them. That's my personal goal. Long term goal for Project Dapur Uma, we want to sell the sauces and make those foods available for a wide array of people.
Ah.
And as a group and person for myself, I just like developing and challenging myself with the foods. And so these things, if you go back for the conversation from me teaching, from me experimenting with my work and my studies, from me experimenting with Makrosini and down to Project Dapur Uma, its core of it is just me wanting to do something and doing it aligned with the core values I have.
Wow, wow. That's crazy. I mean, because you have this I would say you have the willpower to want to do things and dare to be different, right? So what would you say to those aspiring to break out from the norm? Because I feel like a lot of us Malaysians want to do something different and we're craving for something different, but a lot of us are either scared to do it or afraid of people saying things, or maybe are in situations that are not conducive enough. So what do you have? Any words of wisdom for people?
Okay. One, for those who are watching, if you're wondering, yes, my chair kind of sank a bit. I don't know how to get up. So it looks a bit different now. Two, for those who are aspiring and want to do something new, I would say go do it. But everyone's saying that and
Mhm,
nothing's happening. So I would say this, take the time to write it down what you want to do.
mhm.
Find a way to do what you want to that you will one day do in its most basic and most simplest form that you can already do. For me, before I got to the point where I was performing poetry for university lecturers and head of departments or from shows in Johor, it started off with me working with what I have, which was my phone. Everyone here has a phone that is a powerhouse that can do
Yeah.
so many things. If you want to start doing video, if you want to start doing spoken word, if you want to start doing anything else that's new, like playing a flute with your nose, or like cooking food by the side of the road, or like doing anything. Honestly, I don't know what you want to do that's new. Try finding its most basic form that's scalable upwards.
Mhm. And then, yeah, so what other advice you have for those who want to break out from the norm?
Find out what it is that you're doing and anything related to it. Like they take the time to go and explore the craft and what you think is new. And it's like um, what I've had to work with. What I just recently went through was someone who wanted to curate and do a show where it's a collaboration between artist and poetry, and
Mhm.
she honestly thought it was something that was never been done before, and it has. It has been done before, but there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with doing something that has been done before because it's something new for you.
Mhm.
And if you do something that's been done before, you're not doing. It's not that you're doing something that has been tried and tested. You're joining in on a larger conversation that other practitioners are part of. If you're doing poetry and you join in poetry and you read other people's poems and you write in the same field, you are joining in that larger conversation that poets have had over generations. And that's the
Wow.
cool part of it. That's the fun part of it. So yes, you can explore, and if you want to be a trailblazer, you want to make something new, by all means pursue it. But also take the time to read and explore what has been done before.
Mm. So at least you know where to go, or what to look for as a reference, right? In a sense.
So reference is great. You don't have to follow it. Like this is a bit difficult for me because some people are fixated on looking at what has been done before and then following it to the T.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, like you mentioned, it's kind of scary to experiment. It's hard to break free and look forward to new things and trying something new. Um, my only advice to approaching that and dealing with it is honestly being okay with it. Like this is such a redundant way to say it. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is taking the time to think about what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then coming to terms with it.
Ah, all right,
If
all right.
something new for you is singing, and you want to sing weirdly, start and just start and do it primarily for yourself, because no matter where or what stage you are at your craft, it will always have to be for yourself first.
Yeah, not
If you're
for
not,
others or not for the money, right?
not yet.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet. Like poetry, when I mentioned I do things because I want to be financially independent, poetry, I did it because I liked it. But I also understood that if I pursued poetry, it would develop my writing skills, that would make me hireable, and that would lead to money. So yeah, that was how it's connected. It's not poetry for money's sake, it's poetry for my sake in a way that allows me to get money in different ways.
Well, speaking of hiring, right? So, if you read the news these days, there's a lot of grumbles and complaints about the hiring system and how unfair the job market is. So, how do you think the job market should change? I mean, because we have a lot of talents, and these talents are still, not getting the attention of certain companies and certain people.
That's honestly something that should change from the company side. And the only thing that we can do as people who are looking for work, I would say, trying to look for the word, sorry, hold on. Give yourself more weight
Mm-hmm.
that you have the skills and you are a human in which they need to hire. You need the skills to be able to be hired.
Mm-hmm.
Look for the work that you can do. Look for the work that you're comfortable doing. And when I say comfort, as in that's within your means. Do work that challenges you. Do work that is interesting to you or weird to you or never done, but at the same time nothing to the point where it causes you distress. That stops you from functioning normally.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're talking about availability for work, I will say there's a lot of work that maybe not is not what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is difficult, honestly. Like I said, in the beginning point, it was me having a hard time looking for work.
Which
That
led
being
you to all these projects, right?
yeah, which led me to all these projects, which then led me to be more hireable, in which provided me work surprisingly from writing to photography. And so I had to build and develop my skills there, which led me to Midris and then develop my skills in photography and videography. So that's what I said. You might not have the skills to do the work that's available. Sometimes it's understanding that and like taking it, just facing it at heart and like, you know what, I need more skills. I need to find work that I can do. I need to get things. I need to be able to have the skills to be hired. Or you have to create work.
Oh, this is they
You
have
have to
we have
create
some feedback
jobs.
from Merit here, because people are
Yeah.
multiplying. Yeah, I think the influx of graduates is kind of creating a challenge,
Oh yeah.
although in another way, I guess it also
That's
is a
Malaysia's
good
problem too.
challenge.
Like not really like Malaysia's problem is that like comes to like pharmacy. I am currently in a relationship and my significant other took
Oh,
pharmacy. And honest, there's only like two, three big pharmaceutical companies that can hire her for her qualifications. That's
oh,
not a lot. Really, there isn't. And even in the STEM field, like I said, engineering is gonna face trouble because there isn't much work that hires them. We have so many influx of people
yeah.
from overseas workforce that's much more better qualified, that's doing work for a very much underpaid rate. But they do it because because of currency transfer, sorry, value of the currency. It's
Mm-hmm.
still good enough for them to send back home.
Oh, right,
That's
right.
crazy. That's not okay, and that's a problem. And like as an individual, I don't have any advice to change that system. All I've had to do and what I've been doing is looking for work where I can and doing my best. That being said, it's not okay. That needs to be something done. I am just not knowledgeable enough in that field to say with definitive answer what that thing is. But
May,
there are people who are looking into it. There are people who are researching and fighting for workers' rights and for educational rights. Those people are in different groups. I would say we need to look for them lah. For those who don't know, and for those who know, please tell me. My Twitter account is at underscore Umar Aziz. I would love to know more about what you have to say and think about these things.
true, true. All right, and yeah, well, I was about to say something actually about this whole thing, but it's kind of funny that Merrick mentioned under the New World Order plan. I would say I don't know. I mean, life is unpredictable, right? It's about how we survive it and how we make the most of what we have, I guess. So yeah, so some final remarks. So, what final words do you have for people who want to, and what final words do you have to share that maybe we haven't covered tonight?
Mm, I don't know. This is the thing. I am very much okay with talking to people and like
Mm-hmm.
understanding first what they need to like talk about. So giving final words or something like that, I honestly don't have much to say. Like, um, I don't know. Give me something that's a bit more closed in or focused into a subject. I'll do my best.
Like how? Okay, maybe like how would you advise someone to perfect their craft so that they can stand out and not be the same like others, perhaps?
Oh wow. So I'm still learning that. It's something that I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
developing myself. So if you're looking for advice from the end point of this part, I am not the person to give you that. But what I'm currently exploring and
Mm-hmm.
how to make my craft my own is you need to take classes. I know it's something that some of okay because again I grew up with not much funds for this, and honestly I started with not many classes. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn from observation and going through these things, but you have to go
Mm-hmm.
to see and view other people doing their work. And that's also a form of education. So, in the process of finding your own craft and developing your own craft, I would just say allow yourself to experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Be okay with doing mundane or really weird stuff. It's okay to bring out bad work if you allow that to lead you to good work.
So
But
it's
it's important that you take the time to experiment, not just with the craft that you're working with, but with yourself. So you better understand yourself.
so it's
I
better
don't
to
want to
take
say
the risk and let it develop you then.
it's better to take um, s- it's better to take smart risks,
Mm-hmm.
risks that you're okay living with. I'm not telling you to like quit your studies and go for a 1 year poetry trip to find
Oh,
yourself in Bali or something and go to all the literature events. I'm saying take the time to write and let yourself write badly or what you think could be fun and explore that. Write about mundane stuff. Write about whatever you feel you want to write about. I understand that if, for me, I am a young growing man in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a young Muslim man growing in Malaysia, and the things I face are unique to me, and I will be writing about it. I have
Uh,
written about being the eldest son. I have written about wanting a father figure that I can be happy with. I have written to my grandmother and the fear of loss. And I've
oh.
written specifically for like communications and like how when growing up you change and how do you continue developing that, which was the theater play Amor arguments made in together. So
I
yeah,
like that. I like that acronym that I'm all acronyms made into. Wow, that's a smart one.
thank you. Yeah, that's my advice for finding your own voice or figuring out and making your craft your own. It's allowing yourself to explore. A lot of times
Ah,
people don't let them do that. They're not okay with creating bad products. They're like, I don't want to, I'm bad at it. It's fine that you're bad at it. If you watch Adventure Time, Jake says good advice. You have to like be pretty bad at it to one day be okay-ish with it. The multiple steps when you mean. I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah, that's it. You
okay.
just start doing it and develop take yourself seriously in that sense.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Umar, for your time. Really appreciate it. Wow. So,
Welcome. Thank you for having me on your show. I hope that anything I said was helpful. And I'm sorry if I went on any tangents. I
uh,
think I didn't, but if I did, comment or tell me so that I can improve.
yeah, it's no problem. No problem. We are all developing this. So this whole talk show thing is also new for me. This is like the craziest experiment I'm doing right now. Just to
Great.
venture into things. Okay, so for those who are just tuned in, I know some people. I notice the culture. Sometimes people get silent and they don't know what to ask. Maybe later they'll ask. But for those who are watching, I also post this video again on YouTube, the edited version, and do check out Umar. His Twitter handle is underscore Umar Aziz. There'll be underscore UMARAZIZ. And do check out his projects, Makhluk Seni, that's Makhluk, MAKHLUK SENI, or do check out Project Dapu Umar, project spelled PROJEK. All right, so thank you, Umar, for joining our show.
Welcome. Thank you for
So,
having me.
so after this, we'll take a short break and then we'll start the stream of Chrono Cross.
Ooh.
So, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you guys later.